So, Reto, welcome back, and we're going to be talking about your Nude in the City images on this session. How have you been since our last chat? Everything okay?
I'm Rob. Yes, everything was very fine. I was conducting 2 workshops, one in Switzerland and one in Denmark, southern France.
Excellent.
For a few days, and now I'm back to real life.
It's a real life kind of thing with it. For those of watching who didn't get a chance to see the first session with us, let's kind of just give them a little bit of a backstory to you. When did you kind of first get going in photography, and how did you specifically get into some of the new projects and everything else with it?
Yeah, so I began with photography about maybe 40 years ago, with landscape, flowers, animals photography, travel photography, and then I moved to half professional photography with model photography, nude art photography about 12 years ago.
Yep.
And since then, I'm also conducting workshops all over Europe, in the Czech Republic, Prague, France, Switzerland, Germany. And yeah, I like what I do. It's a side job, it's not my main job, because then I can choose what I do. I don't have.
But you're still in the world of professional photo in some way, which we won't talk about as such really, but you are in the world of professional photo, isn't it, kind of thing with it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. I've got some links later for your website and to your speciality purple port page and everything else with it and things really. Look, I've had loads of questions through from members. I put out our usual kind of questionnaire to my kind of top 100 members, as it were, who always kind of come up with a great question. So let's get it going. So before we kind of get into the images, what inspired you to start the Nude in the City project?
The inspiration was I gave up my studio. I had a studio about 4 or 5 years, and I gave it up because it started to be boring for me. And then I made some street photography, and I thought, okay, why not make a combination? Why not going to the city with some nude photography, nude art photography? I made my first shoot in the city of Zurich, and it was a real adventure, and I was really happy about the feedback from people who saw us, and it was very impressive and interesting. And then I wanted to do it more and more, and I said, Nude in the City, it's a very nice experience for everybody, for me as a photographer, for the model, but it's nothing for every model, of course. The model needs to know what she goes into.
And how do you go about choosing the locations? Is there something specific that you're looking for? I'm sure that some of these questions will be answered as we start to look at the images. But is there something that special that you're looking for? Are you a hunter of light, or do you just look at the background or the textures? How does it all come together for you?
For me, it's important that on every photo, on most of the photos, it's really visible that they are in a city.
Okay.
So I want to have some parts of this of the city in the picture. I want to have maybe some people in the background. Maybe when I work with open apertures, no problem. And that's very important. But I don't have a special location where I go. I walk through the city together with my model, with not so much equipment. I think that's important, not to bring a lot of stuff to carry, because you have to be fast. And I walk through the city and I see some places and say, okay, that's how here we can shoot. Of course, I know the cities where I go. I don't go to a city where I haven't been before.
And is there a particular time of day that you because obviously when the streets are very, very busy, it's going to be a lot more awkward anyway, but do you pick a particular time of day, or do you just go out and shoot?
Interesting question, because most of the people think I only go early in the morning or late in the evening. I do it also then, but sometimes I also go during business time. So for example, I had a shooting. My first shooting in the city was at 5 p.m. at the Bahnhofstrasse in Zurich, which is one of the most used shopping streets in Zurich. And yeah, I found out it's easy, no problem. People don't care as long as you're very fast and don't make a big story out of the shoot.
Yeah.
Some people don't see that you are shooting.
Have you encountered any public reactions during the shoot
Yes.
in a negative way, or?
Never in a negative way.
Okay.
That's what I'm surprised. It was always in a very positive way. People came and asked what I'm doing here, what for I'm doing the photos, if it's not dangerous, if it's not forbidden. That people ask me this, but I never had negative feedback. And of
Excellent.
course, before I did my first shoot in the city, I contacted the police of Zurich and asked if I needed permission. They said, yes, of course, you need a permission if you have a lot of equipment, if you need public space for more than 20 minutes, they need a permission. So then my second question, and what about nudity? They said, oh no, that's no problem. You only have to be careful where you shoot, not at 9 in the morning before school or kindergarten, but it's not a problem. They said if somebody calls police, they will come, check the photos, and in the worst case, they ask you to go to another location.
Yeah, excellent. Okay, as I said, there's loads of questions here, but we'll have to pick them off as we're going through the do. The first image. Let's talk about this one.
Yep. That picture was I did it 1 year ago. It's a picture in Prague at the end of the Charles Bridge. It's a very busy place. And I didn't shoot on the bridge because it was forbidden to shoot there with models. So we decided to go to the end of the bridge, to the street, and I asked the model to lay down and to pose. And I would like to have a picture that shows the city, it shows the cars, that it's a street. There are also some people in the background walking over the street. And that's how it happened. Just go there, see the place, and be fast and shoot. And
is there much post-production, I should say, to your nude in the city kind of images, or are they pretty much raw?
They're pretty much raw. I have my settings on the camera, I have my presets already in the camera, and I prefer I shoot in black and white with high contrast, and I don't make a lot of post-productions. I never made some retouching. I never put something from the picture away or put it in there, so it's more or less raw.
Okay. On a technical question as such, what's your equipment that you're running with at present? Have you got a preferred kind of camera that you're using at present, and a preferred lens or anything?
Yep. My preferred camera is my Canon R6 Mark II at the moment.
Okay.
Mostly I shoot with a 51.2 millimeter. That's often the only equipment I have with me. Sometimes I also have my 70 to 200 2.8 also with me.
And staying with mirrorless for a minute, if people aren't aware, the R6 is mirrorless. Yeah. Are you a photographer that is looking on the back of the screen, or are you bringing it to your eye?
I bring it to my eye.
Are you quite surprised how many photographers don't go to the eyepiece?
Yes, I'm really surprised, and I see it all the times when I'm organizing a workshop that people shoot like this, and honestly, I cannot do it.
Me either.
I don't see the picture if it's a sunny day. I go always to the wrong side. Don't know why. I want to have it close to my eye, and I can concentrate to the picture. And with the mirrorless camera, you see exactly what you are doing. So.
I had one of the first Fujis that came out a decade or more ago. I can't remember when it was now. It was that long ago. The X Pro 1, I think it was called. And I tried it kind of looking on the screen, but I just felt that I was missing details, that even though it was a bigger screen, it seemed further away from me being able to see quickly or scan around the image, and I wasn't sure if it was just me or not, you know. And obviously, I've been to quite a few family weddings this year, and all the photographers, you know, are basically doing this all the time. And I'm thinking, I can't hold it steady enough anyway, kind of thing, you know.
I also cannot do it. Maybe it's also because I'm coming from analog photography, and I learned to use the eye finder and to scan the picture before I click the button. So, yeah. And
Cool.
then I nearly never use the screen, even not for checking the picture. If I have a look at the picture to check it, I also take it to the eyes.
Yeah, excellent. What kind of aperture is your working kind of style and things? Do you fix yourself at one point?
The aperture is normally on the 50mm RF lens. It's on 1.2.
Okay.
Completely open. And also with the 70-200 lens, I always use the open aperture 2.8. It's only because of the I want to have the background blurred, and if there are some people in the background, they have not to be sharp. I don't want to have to. Then I have no problem with the picture.
Mm-hmm. And the one good thing about mirrorless, they do seem to be sharper now in this past kind of, I would say, this new generation of mirrorless. They seem to really pick the focus quicker, and they seem to track any sign of error. And I think at my age, I need that without any doubt. I always joked in the Hasselblad days, I'll have to move away from Hasselblad to 35mm because I have to go to autofocus at some stage, not seeing that digital was going to come. And well, obviously we knew it was going to come, but kind of, you know, the Hasselblad manual focusing was a thing of the past kind of thing with it, you know. But there you go. Right, let's go to our next image. I love that photograph. By the way, how did you go about finding this model?
This one? That's you mean this one?
Yeah, this one.
It's one of my, let's say, muse. It's a Tanya from Germany.
Okay.
I do a lot of shootings with her, from portrait, street photography, nude art photography. And if I have a crazy idea, I ask her interested, and she most of the time will come. It's a very close cooperation.
Okay, let's talk about the next image.
Yep, that's the model is K3 from Poland. And the location is in Zurich, the old town of Zurich. And this picture was on the Sunday morning at maybe at 7 o'clock. So this was really early. The one before was at 9, and this was on 7 o'clock. Streets are empty. I preferred it because of the model. She didn't want to have a lot of people walking around her. That's why I decided to go early in the morning. And for me, it's important to see the depth of the picture, the street, how it goes to the back, and in the background you see a part of one of the how to say, one of the most important churches in Switzerland, the Grossmünster. It's yeah, I don't know, a censored kind of point where the thing that a church that everybody knows in Switzerland from Zurich. And that was also very interesting to have it to shoot close to a church.
Yeah, very. What about choose on models and things, Willie? I know you shoot in the fine art nude. Mm-hmm. When you're kind of posing the model like you are here, how do you allow them to lift the body? Do you have to give them instruction, or are they all pretty much know what you're trying to achieve? Because a flat foot is not a great foot, is it, in a tall image?
Yeah, thank you. I don't talk to the model. I don't say the model turn like this, do like this, do like this. This I don't do. I explain the model before the shoot on the location, on the set, what I would like to have. So here I told her I want to have you walk into my direction, like on a catwalk, for example. Then you know exactly how to do it. And then I let them go. Most of the times, there come a lot of stuff into the shoot, into the photo from the model side, that they bring their own ideas into the shooting.
Okay. And what about handling the unpredictable lighting as such, really? Does that worry you at all? Or
About the light?
yeah, you know, when it's unpredictable, because obviously you can go and scout a location on the one day at a certain time and it looks great. You can
Yeah.
go back the next day at exactly the same time and it's a completely different light source.
So I know, honestly, I don't care really much about the light. I always say if you're in a city, you always have some places also around noon where you can shoot, where you have shadow, where you have the border between light and shadows. And that's the challenge I have in the city, to place the model on the right position in the light, and not to put the light around the model like you do in the studio.
Yeah.
And that's when I walk through a place and I see here, for example, there was not so much light because of the houses. And if I shoot at noon, for example, I will go closer to the walls or maybe beyond a bridge or something like this. And you always find some places.
Yeah.
But I don't go scouting first. I never do it.
What role does the contrast between the nude form and the cityscape play in your work?
For me, it's the contrast is important to show the people it's as natural as possible, and it's in the inner city. It's not I want to have the impression of the city. I want to have the situation of the city. For example, this shooting here with this model, it's also from Germany. I also told her just also walk around like on a fashion show presenting a coat, and she did. And I used a very simple background. In the picture before, we had the old town that's close to the center of Zurich. This one, buildings are not so special, let's say, but it's also important to see here. It's a contrast between the femininity of the model and the hard walls and the buildings of the city.
Okay. The models, when they're moving from one location to another, like this model's got a coat with her, that's an easy cover up, isn't it, really? Do you give any advice to photographers on how they would move from location to location? You know, is there anything like a coat that is pretty much the standard thing to wear? Or
I always say to the models, bring some clothes you like to wear, you feel comfortable with. For example, she only had a coat because this picture was I think it was in March. Okay. She came just with the coat and some boots. And other models, they came maybe with some jogging trousers and a training jacket, but not with very complicated dresses.
Yeah.
Because they have to change very fast or to take it off very fast. Yeah. And also the cover, for example, if you see, for example, that some people are coming with some children, for example, or some people from another religious region, then I take care and I say, okay, cover fast, and we wait until they pass by.
Yeah. So when we look at this kind of image, would you have preferred it without the coat, or do you kind of quite like the accessories as a part of the city shoot?
I like always if there are some accessories like a coat or something like this. I think just nude in the city, it's not so easy, especially if you walk around. If you imagine this model here walking without coat, just around. For me, it doesn't has no story.
Yeah.
She walks by and lets the coat fall, and that's the story of the picture. And she sees me accidentally, for example.
Excellent. And is this a model that you've worked with quite a bit again, or?
That's another one from model from Germany. It's Mary Cat. She also shoots very often with me. I think that's important I never make a nude in the city shooting with a model which I didn't shoot before. Because you have to know each other, you have to know how we work, how the model works, how you feel That's for me very important. So if somebody writes me and says, I want to shoot with you in the city, we never did the shooting before, and said we can do, but first we make some other shootings, just to know each other.
Very good. Our next image, which I absolutely love.
I love this picture. It's one of my favorites.
And it's one of mine from the selection you gave me. I love it.
And this picture really has a real story. The model is Dominique, also from Czech Republic. And that was also one of my first Nude in City shootings. The funny thing was how she arrived. She came just with the coat and some boots. And then we said, okay, we go to the city, walk around in the evening. And that was around 7 o'clock, also at the Bahnhofstrasse, which is a very busy street normally. And here, she told me that she broke with her boyfriend a few days before. And then we walked by this phone cell, and I told her, that's very interesting here. You can shoot in there. So she went in there. Then she was surprised because it was pretty warm in there. It was heated there, and they had some music. So she felt very comfortable, but she didn't know what to do. Then I told her, maybe call your ex-boyfriend and tell him what you think about him. Hey, she didn't call him live, but she did. She played it, and she did excellent. And
are there messages? I know these are happy accidents at times, isn't it? When you walk around a place and you go, look, we got to try that, you know, and then all of a sudden you might be at the almost last 10 minutes of the shoot of what you, and then all of a sudden you're shooting the best image of the night or whatever. But do you think is there something instinctive in you that brings a kind of a message or an emotion to an image? So, you know, like you talked about, you know, pretend to ring your boyfriend or whatever it is. How does your brain tick with these kind of things? Is it instinctive?
That's the advantage if you know the model already. If you know her story, if you know how she is, if you know if she had some troubles with traveling or troubles with a relationship. If you know the model, and it's much easier to bring the story into the picture. And the funny thing here, while we shoot, we were 3 persons. My wife was also with us, and she always stands a little apart of us. She always looks around what happens around us. And then she told us after the shoot, she told us that a couple walked by. And the woman looked at the phone cell and said, it's interesting what you can use a phone cell today. And the man said, who needs a phone cell in these days? And she said, have a look at it, then you know. So
well, it's a different way to use it. Yeah.
That's always the stories that we have beside this happens. We have a lot of stories like this with our photos from the city.
And as far as details in the post-production, if there was, I don't know, something written or marks or something on the glass, let's say, is that the kind of thing that you would pay some post-production time to, or do you just leave it go as is?
If there is maybe a sign from a company or from the phone, in this case from the phone company, I would replace it.
Okay.
Just only not to get into trouble.
And what about the depth of color? I know we talked about it in the last session, but when you're printing, what's your preferred look? Do you like a very solid black and a very bright white, or you do you?
Yeah, I like contrast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I personally think that a lot of photographers are over sharpening their images because they're forgetting about the sharpness of contrast alone. You know, and I think that's when we learned as film photographers and analog photographers. It's weird how the word analog is standard in our it's like the word image, isn't it, instead of photograph or whatever. But yeah, it's amazing. I find that how many sharpen an image, but they haven't actually looked at the contrast sharpening alone with it. Do you find that, because you obviously you get to see a lot of photographs around the world, as it were? Do you find a similar thing?
I think it's I think it's exactly like this. For example, if I shoot with films, I have 3 films I used. It was from Ilford, the HP5, the FP4, and what was the other one? Pan Plus, I think.
Yeah.
And then I knew exactly how it looks from the look, how it is from the contrast, and how the film looks like. And that's what I try to do in my digital photos too. I want to bring a analog touch into my photos.
I used to have a bit of a pet hate where you could almost identify. Kodak had a black and white film that could go through C41, and I absolutely hated it. And I was a Kodak man through and through, except for that film. And you could just see it was just not very good. But hey ho, anyway, love that image, Reto. Honestly, it's a great shot, that. Next image then. How does the where's it gone? The question, sorry. How do you select and work with your models? So I know you said that you have a muse or several muses that you use often, but when do you go looking for a new model?
I go looking for a model if I check for some sites like TroublePort or Model Cartai. I go through there and see if there are some models I would like to work with. What I have to done before? What's their style? Does it fit with mine? And if I see somebody, maybe want to have some new model, I write her. She's interesting to make a shooting with me, maybe later a workshop or maybe a Nude cities or stuff like this. That's how I do it normally. And I'm really very much selecting my models. So for example, nowadays I come a lot of shooting requests from young girls. I don't say models, just young girls, for example, from Ukraine. And they say they're much too young, they have no experience, no life experience. They just look great. That's all. That's not enough.
No.
For me.
And do you find that the more experienced models that you work with help you to influence the shoot direction?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
definitely. So, for example, all the photos we saw so far from this Nude city are very experienced models. Most of them are more than 7-8 years in business.
Yeah,
that's for me very important.
Excellent. Let's talk about this image anyway.
Yeah, that's also kind of an image I always had a long time in my head. I would like to do it, to shoot during evening when the shops still are open. It's also on the Bahnhofstrasse. You see the Bahnhofstrasse in Zurich. It's one of my favorite places. And I told her, we wait for a tram. It's correct, a tram? I think so, huh?
Yeah, yeah.
We wait for a tram. I want to have a picture of you waiting for a tram. And then after a few minutes, really a tram arrived, and she was sitting there like just normal person waiting for a tram. And the interesting stuff for us is the tram was full of people, and it stopped here because it was a tram station. And then people looked, but nobody cared. They just looked, some smiled, but no negative stuff. And then after a while, the driver of the tram, he started again, and then he made a full break because there was a crossroad, and the sign for him was on stop, and he wanted to go. So we thought maybe he was looking in the mirror and saw her sitting there and forgot everything else. That was the moment he decided to go away as fast as possible.
Very good.
Yeah, that's the same model here, like the last picture with the tram. This one is in Prague. It's the dancing house. So after the shoot in Zurich, she invited us to Prague to come there and to make the same stuff there. So she showed us the city, and this was around 10 or 11 in the morning. So everything was busy. There are people in the background, drivers. That's a crossroad here with a red light. So, and also here, nobody cared.
It feels 50s, 60s kind of image. This does. I'm not sure quite why. It just
Maybe,
has that vibe, you know.
maybe because of the processing of the photo.
Could be.
Could be. Maybe also because of the model. She looks a little bit like, let's say, a movie star from the 60s.
Yeah.
Her impression. Maybe it's also because of dancing house in the background. That's the people from Prague call it Ginger and Fred. So Ginger and Fred are there. So
It's there,
like,
yeah.
And you're right. I also thought, okay, it looks like picture from the 60s, and that maybe also because I wanted to have again the analog style at the end of the processing.
And do you think that you can recreate analog in the digital world fully, or do you think there is something still different about analog?
I think I can recreate analog style in digital. Yeah, definitely. It has to do with contrast, has to do with the corn, and maybe I remember since I think since we shoot in digital, everybody talks about sharpness. Everything has to be completely sharp and 200% sharp. I say for me, it's more important to bring over emotions than to be technically perfect. If I look at photos and old books, I have a book from Life, a yearbook from Life magazine, and if I compare these photos with digital photos today, everybody would say they're not sharp, but they are famous and they have a lot of emotions in the photo, and that's for me very, very important.
Love it. Let's go to another image. Question though is, can you share with us any themes or ideas that you're exploring at present for another series of Nude in the City at all? Is there anything that you're working on?
I'm always have the Nude in the City is a never-ending story for me. It's one of my projects I do for the next few years, I think. And as soon as I have a model who is interested in it, I will go to the next ones. For example, now a project again to do a Nude in the City in every big city in Switzerland. So from Zurich, Lucerne, Geneva. Yeah.
Very good. Let's talk about this image.
This image is also the model from Poland, but she lives in Italy. And I like her style. She can look really, really boring or bored. Like here, for example, she sits here like she's not interested what happens around her. People are walking by, and she just didn't care. She didn't realize it. So it looks like she didn't realize what's going on here. People are walking around her and see her sitting here with an open shirt. And that's what I like about her and about this photo. It looks just natural. She could also sit completely dressed here, and she would feel the same.
There's, we've all got to start somewhere, haven't we?
Yeah.
But there's let's move to the next image anyway. There's a kind of a classiness when you get it right, but there's a tackiness when people get it wrong. Have you got any advice on simplifying things, or kind of any kind of techniques that you would advise for photographers who have never done this before? Perhaps they've shot nude, but they're kind of going to venture outside? Have you got any idea? Because I've seen some really bad kind of amateur, and when I say amateur, I don't mean amateur photographer, because some of the best photographers I've ever met in life are amateurs. But what I mean is people who are just getting going with it. They're really inexperienced photographers, and they're just doing it, and it kind of comes out a bit tacky as such. Have you got any advice for them?
I think the most important advice is make sure that the model feels comfortable in the situation she is. Don't tell her to do something that she didn't want to do. If you are on a location, on a place or wherever where she didn't feel comfortable because of people or whatever, don't shoot there. That's for me the most important stuff. And then be fast. Don't make a big story out of the set. Don't cry to the model and tell her move like this, move, you look great, and all that stuff. You have to be really fast and quiet. Then people will not recognize you. Because I always say, if some people walk by, they don't think that they found a photographer doing a nude photo shoot in the city. So if they walk by, they are surprised and they don't care about it. And if you're fast and quiet, then that's half of the deal. And the other thing is, don't make it too sharp. For example, if this picture would be sharp from front to the back, the house would be sharp too. It looks like a picture made by a phone. I see also this kind of pictures on some portals from people who want to make some nude in the city photography, and then everything is sharp, from model to the people in the background to the houses in the background, and then it looks like a snapshot, not like an image.
Are you familiar with Spencer Chignick, who does the mass kind of nude bodies actually in cities and things? Really, are you familiar with that?
I know his work. I have a story about his work too. I don't know if you have the photo selected with the photo booth tool.
Yeah.
Because there somebody came and talked to me about this guy, about this photographer. Yes, and I'm familiar with it. He fills places with hundreds of naked people.
Yeah, just volunteers, and all of a sudden he'll just say, right, everybody in position, clothes off, and everybody strips off, and they kind of do either a laying down or a curled up or whatever. I mean, that's a huge project, isn't it? Really,
that's
but
a huge project, and that for you definitely need permission, because you block a public space. And the advantage for the models, or for the people, for the models, is there are a lot of them. They're mass, so they will feel comfortable. They're not just alone, nude in the middle of a crowded location. That's maybe the advantage they have. My models are always alone.
Who are the influences for you, as far as who's kind of somebody that photographers could go and look at besides yourself to get an influence in different styles of nude in the city and things? Have you got any advice?
So for specific for nude in the city, I have honestly not a real influence. I have some influences for me, maybe general influence, like of course Peter Lindbergh, Vincent Peters. Yeah, what's the name of all of them? Yeah, these are the people.
Let's talk about this image.
Yeah. That's one of the rare color pictures I did because I like the red dress, and I like the contrast between her dress and the bluish background. And I think it looks, this one looks in color really stylish, with the elegance of the dress, with the color. And it's also in the old town of Zurich. There's also a person in the background looking into a window. She didn't really recognize us, that she didn't realize what we do. But yeah. And I like it, again, you see it was against the light. So I did everything wrong in a kind of way, but it works.
And our penultimate photograph, last but one. As far as the how do you see? I mean, I'm not trying to be deep at all. These are questions that we've had through. You know, the question is how do you see your work contributing to the broader conversation about art and nudity? And I was trying to kind of design that, because I mean, for me, at the kind of the core, it's about, if it feels good, you know, do it. You know, if somebody else says I don't like it, then they have an opinion. It doesn't mean we have to listen to it and things really. But as far as yourself, how do you see your work contributing to the broader conversation about art and nudity?
For me, nudity was always a part of art since hundreds of years, because during painting and all this sculptural time. And for me, it's always important. I want to show nudity as natural as possible. It should never provocate. Nudity in this kind, like I should, has for me nothing to do with sexuality. It's just the beauty of the female body in combination with wonderful city, beautiful location, and that's it. I don't want to provocate people. If somebody comes and starts to talk to me why I'm doing it, they say because I like it, because the model likes it. That's it. I don't do it for somebody else.
I mean, my saying has always been, look, it's nude, not rude, and it's an easy kind of conversation to kind of follow through, you know. And funny enough, it's not so much by an older photographer or a younger photographer, any specific kind of photographers that I've had those conversation with, whether it's a male or a female photographer, it hasn't mattered. There's just been something in somebody's head that doesn't kind of get it as such, and it's kind of, well, why do you do that? And I think it has to stem back for me from the art side. Like you were saying, you know, when you walk through any museum in any city of the world, you're going to be faced with sculpture, you're going to be faced with drawings, you're going to be faced with paintings, and now you are faced with photography, which is a big celebration. How does that fit within your genre?
Yeah, that's exactly how I see it too. It's for me, it's a normal thing, and I always say, if some negative comes, it's not in. I never have some bad influences in me, and if somebody comes and has some rude ideas, it's in the head of these people, not in mine. So I'm not the one who has a rude thinking. It's the viewer who think it's rude. It's his point of view. And if somebody thinks that that's rude, for example, that's okay. It's your opinion. It's okay for me. Yeah.
I went to a Maplethorpe exhibition about 20 years ago in London, and what's interesting is that when you go there, you're purposely going for almost shock value in some of his work, and if you don't like it, you shouldn't go. But I had a photographer friend who pretty much is on the spectrum of madness. I'll say he's a genius, or he was, but he literally dragged me from one side of the gallery to the other because he couldn't believe how shocking it was. And I went, surely you know Maplethorpe's work. He said, yes, but I've never seen this kind of photography before. And we chatted about a specific image for a good 15 minutes, and it inspired him. It inspired him to be even more mad, and not for erotica or anything else, but just fueled something. That picture brought a genie to work for him the next day, and it kind of took him down a different path, and that's what some art will do for you, some photographs will do for you, isn't it? And things really.
That's right. I also always say, people come to me and say, yeah, you show exactly how the model is. You try to show how the model is. That's wrong. This picture does not show the model. It shows my impression of the situation. It's not a portrait of a model or a shoot of the model. It's a portrait of my thinking.
Yeah, and I also think it doesn't matter if your thinking is a fantasy. You know, it's whatever. It's whatever fuels your creativity. I think that has to be done. You know, for some it's an apple in a bowl and it's left to go to rot over the course of 6 months, and that's what fuels their creativity. Or a flower that is kind of going from its bulb to its kind of falling of leaves. You know, we all have something in different ways and things really. Look, we can't move on until we talk about this image. Tell us about this shot.
Yeah, that's also shot on in Zurich, again with this famous church in the background. But because of this, most people recognize it's Zurich. And Teresa wanted to have a picture of Zurich, and I told her I want to have a picture of you. So we make a combination of both, and we just walk over this bridge here, and then she said, "Okay, I take off my clothes and sit down. Good." That's how it works with me. I don't go there and have this picture in my head. I come to a situation, talk to the model, and picture happens. And the funny thing is, you see this way here is very small. I cannot walk through people, 2 or 3 people beside each other. So we blocked this place. People behind me stopped, and they waited until we were finished, and then they said, "Sorry for disturbing you." And it was fine.
And isn't that lovely? You know, and I think it's taste. They can see that art is being done. They're not judging you. They're definitely not judging the model. And if they're judging the model, it goes back to what you were saying before. That's in their heads. And basically, you know, it's not as if you've got her, you know, straddling one of the bars with legs open. If that's the photographer that somebody is, it's not a kind of photograph that I would look at.
Yeah.
I would try and ask why, if that's what it is, but that's not my job, is to reason why. But when you're looking at this image and things, really, you can understand why they would wait, because they can see that an image is being curated, isn't it? You know, and that's really what you're developing.
It's correct. And again, you see, she feels comfortable here.
Yeah.
She's really relaxed. She enjoys the situation. And that's so important.
Beautiful.
Thank you. That's the story I want. That's the same model like before. And that's a picture I wanted to do since many, many years. I always saw this photo booth and said it would be great to do something there. And then it's in front of a train station in Zurich. And then I walked by with Teresa, also one of my favorite models, because I knew she's exactly the right person to do it. You see it with her smile in the face. She loves what she does. And then we started with the shoot here, and then this guy walked by, and then he looked at us and said, would it be possible to be a part of your photo? But then I asked him why, and he said, yeah, because my sister was a part of the photograph you talked about with the mass of people in Vienna. She was one of hundreds of people, naked people on a place in Vienna. And every time when he goes to visit her, she told him, yeah, at this point here, that's me.
Yeah.
And he wanted to have now a picture, and now you can say, you see, I'm not a point, I'm the main person of the picture. So
I love the humor in this image. I think it's fabulous. I love it.
He stands there and waits for his photo, and the model, she's there smiling at him, and he doesn't care.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it and things really. And it's kind of great to actually see, you know, the comparison in the different images, isn't it? That, you know, it is about having a little bit of fun at times and allowing you to have yourself some fun as well within things really. So the last image of the session,
Yes.
let's chat about this.
That's a session. This picture happened again in Zurich, in a place called Lindenhof. That's the place where the Romans founded Zurich. And it was also, it's a touristy place here. And the model always told I shoot pretty often with her, and she told me, I want to do it. I want to be a part of your Nude City project. I said, okay, we go, do it. And I like how she looks, because they are on the right, on her left side, there are people playing chess with the big figures, and she looked at them and she smiled, and they also didn't care about her. They were so concentrated on their play. So it's again a situation that I think it looks like, you see, she likes what she does, and she doesn't feel bad, and she likes the situation, and that's exactly what I want to show with my photography.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. What about, we're going to talk about your website and kind of connections. Have you got a book? Have you done a book? Have you created a book of your nudes yet and things? Are you doing anything? Are you working on, even if it's for yourself, are you doing anything?
It's working on the book. It's one of my long time projects. It's a dream of me to publish a book, definitely.
Yeah.
And but I don't want to do just as fast as possible. I want to do it when I think now I'm ready. I have photos I can use for it, but I still have some ideas in my head that I would like to use for this book. And at the moment, I always say pictures have to come out of the computer. They have to come to paper, because maybe also of my main job.
Yeah.
And I want to print, I want to publish, and I want to make exhibitions.
Fantastic. So website, and then obviously Purple Port, if you want to kind of see more of Rita's work anyway. And obviously from there, you'll also connect into the nudeart.ch and things. We talked about the nudeart.ch before. Talk to me about what it's about.
It's a community of 35 members, 30 photographers, and 5 models are part of it. And we always say, as you said, nude is art, it's not rude. And that's the main message we want to do. We want to bring fine nude art photography to public, to show to people, to say it's art, it's so different, it has nothing to do with porn or stuff like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we want to do. We meet 4 times a year, and we have a weekend, and when we meet all together, make a weekend with shootings. Maybe the most interesting stuff, actual interesting stuff, we have a big exhibition in Zurich for the whole community in November, December. Then we will show from every 35 member, we will show the work in a big exhibition over 4 weeks.
Very good.
And most of this,
sorry.
Many of these photographers are professionals, book authors. Yeah. And now you are on the actual side of Purple Port, I saw.
Yeah, on Purple Port, I think it's a great way for anybody who's looking to have some influence, get some ideas from somebody who's done it and who's doing it. You know, I think visiting your Purple Port site is a really good influence for images and everything else, and they can get some really great ideas from there. And obviously, if they're interested in workshops or anything else, then they can actually visit your website, which is Reto Heiz, RETOHEIZ.com, and they can actually find some information out from there.
The workshops are on my other homepage. That's the photopix.ch. If you go back to Purple Port, you'll see the first link here. That's my official homepage, where also all the events and workshops are published.
Perfect. Thank you so much again,
Thank you.
Reto. I love chatting to you, and fingers crossed we're going to get you back again and again and again and again and again. And I know you are, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how things develop. And if there is any chance I can ever get discount from the company that you work for, I will never say no to that and things, really. Thank you so much, seriously. And I look forward to seeing your next series of images that we'll chat about.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks very much indeed.
Okay. Thanks,
Reto.
Have a good time.